We're live. Good evening, my people. Today is Wednesday, the 15th of July. Now, I have a very important guest. This lady interviewed me last week, and now today it's my turn. Tables of turn. She's back. I'm interviewing her. Our topic is women in politics, basically. However, this is somebody who has had a dream, and the dream is on its way. Now, the reason why I'm interviewing her today is because she's going to tell us a little bit about where she's at and also some views about herself. I'm going to introduce her to you, and her name is Angela Asante-Armar. Angela is a mother with many strings to her bow and an avid champion of mothers, mother figures, and women in general. She empowers women through her services as an intuitive life and career coach. She is at Embrace Yourself Coaching, and she's a founding member of Power to Our Mothers Foundation Africa, a non-governmental organization, so many big words, registered in her country of origin, which is Ghana. And her vision is to empower mothers to thrive on all levels so that their surrounding community and nation also thrive. Now, currently, she's residing in the UK, and Angela is relocating to Ghana with her children to reintegrate with her heritage and to empower herself and fellow members and women to contribute to restoration of her country. Angela is also a UK employment lawyer and a law career mentor and a singer and a songwriter. So Angela is a major force. And people, Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. If I can call you Auntie Candy.
Yeah, well, you can call me anything you like. If you're comfortable with calling me auntie, that's fine. I do know your aunties and uncles anyway, so.
Very true,
that's okay. Now, good evening, my people. Good evening, Deanne. It's nice to see you. Good evening, Shirley. Lots of people are on the show now.
Okay.
Now, why? I remember I have interviewed you before.
You have?
And I remember you, at the time, it was a new concept. However, it was a very passionate dream. Mm-hmm. Where are you at with this dream?
So, where I'm at with the dream is I am soon to be, let me roll back actually. So where I'm at with the dream is since then, having been talking about what I'm doing a bit more, I've since founded an organization, become one of the founding members of the Power to Our Mothers Foundation Africa organization, which is registered in Ghana. And that is, what can I say? It's the start of something that I sense is growing quite successfully, really to empower mothers across the board in all levels, but really starting from a practical place, if you like. The vision, or part of the vision, is to actually build the first but not the last Power to Our Mothers Foundation Africa village, which houses mothers and their children for free. Those that cannot manage that, free or low cost. Also to welcome home to Ghana diasporans like myself, who have been trying. I mean, there are a lot of there are a lot of people like myself born outside the motherland, Ghana and other African places. Other countries in Africa, who want to go back, but they don't know how, or they have tried, or they have invested, and they've been basically defrauded, because they don't know the right people. Desperation can be very ugly, so it's to make a way for them to also to come home, but not just to be going put somewhere in some one corner somewhere, all like a little colony of people born outside the country. No, to integrate with their own people, to learn their language, their traditions, their culture, to most importantly to grow what we need to eat that sustains us. So we've already secured land, we're cultivating, we're growing, maize is growing, we're going to have lots of different crops. So it sounds very basic, but for a country as Ghana that has...
No, but can I just hold it before I lose my train of thought.
Go on.
You are cultivating land to grow food. You're cultivating land to grow food. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, so we're
Why?
planting. For who? For
Yeah.
the people. Yeah, for the people of the country, for people who are going to live on the land, because this is to be a village. So for the people who live on the land, to eat from the land, and also to sell that produce out as well to other places.
Okay. So it's going to be commercial, it's going to be domestic. The people on the land who are farming on the land are going to eat the produce of the land, and then you're going to sell some as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One moment, slight interruption. Coffee. Live. Thank you. Can you close? Ask Kojo, please. Close the door.
This is interviewing a mother. Children get involved.
Exactly. This is the occupational hazard, the one we're not paid for. Yes. So many uses for that produce. But the point is to grow more of what we need, because at least as of the end of February this year, agriculture only made up 1%. I think it's even less than 1% of the business sector in Ghana. That's just crazy. Okay. So basically more farming. Okay. And
why is agriculture just less than, with all the people in the country, why is agriculture, does that mean the food comes out from other areas into the country to be able to feed the whole country? I don't understand. Explain.
Yeah, you and me both. No, but seriously speaking, we import food. Ghana imports food. There's food. It's not like there's not food. There are places in Ghana where food is growing. I saw images just very recently of like a land with the trees where there's mangoes, so many mangoes that have grown. They've fallen, but there's nobody there. There's nobody there to eat it, or to be able to get it, to pick it up to go and sell it. So there's food in the country that is rotting, whilst people are somehow, they don't have enough to eat. So our focus is a bit, our focus is not really where it should be. But yes, some food is imported. They are doing some things like, really promoting that we buy local rice, so they are trying to address that. But that's like a huge gap. 1%. Like I heard that and I just was like, wow. So that aside, farming on the land, part of the one of the aims and objectives of the foundation is to really help mothers, and when I say mothers, mother figures, women basically, to upskill themselves, either to get gainful employment or to become successful entrepreneurs. So one of the plans is to start training some of the women to sew. I mean, lots of women sew, but in terms of, sewing our clothes, tailoring and things like that, to give them a trade, to let them be self-sufficient. And then also to house mothers and children who unfortunately are fleeing from, or have been, or are victims of some form of domestic abuse, domestic violence. So there's a few things that land, that village is seeking to encompass, embrace, and it's very dear to my heart because I think we've lost our way as humanity, really. And it's really simple about going back to the mothers, and that's why you'll hear me talk a lot about the mothers because, you know, as I'm sure I said the last time you interviewed me, that we are the first educators of our children. And as you and I were discussing when you came onto the platform last week, we are the first, not only the first educators, how you were saying that, within the household, we have so many roles that we play, and yet we have been depleted for so long collectively, as in the collective of
We
women.
have been and we have been undermined. We do a lot of work, but it's disrespected, undervalued. It is done. It is expected of you to feed your child, feed your husband, child, or household. It is expected of you to put plaster on a sore, expected of you to bathe your children, keep the house clean, and yet you are still not looked at as a woman, as a human being, as somebody who contributes to the wholeness of a family. What more, a community?
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought. That's what I said, and that I still hold on to that. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's absolutely true. And I've just come from a conversation where we were discussing where that came from. Because as a people, as
Mm-hmm.
an African people, that was not our norm. That was not our origin. That was our origin, or our traditional ways of being, was where the woman knew her role, the man knew her role, and they were complementary. They weren't competitive. And so, that made a major shift where we went into where we entered colonialism and slavery, because one would be pit amongst above, or placed above the rest of us. So usually the one that's in the house, that they used to refer to as the house nigger, put in the house, and everybody else is subservient, and usually the men being in the house. So it means that the women are the ones that were subservient. So we are living out age old behaviors, learned behaviors. And the more we get to talk like this is to educate ourselves, inform ourselves, so we find our way out of it. You know, we don't have to do a whole, go straight to the roots. But for me, it's really important for us to know that a bit about where it came from, but most importantly, the fact that it's our responsibility to change it, not anybody else's, because we're the one that's living the experience.
I think you're right. I think we're the ones living the experience, and therefore it is up to us to do something about it. Now, in view of, I always put the situation we're having now in the world regarding Black Lives Matter at the same, not at par, but similar to the argument that women's lives matter. Now, yesterday we didn't finish talking about it. Well, last week we didn't
Yes.
finish talking about the fact that um, when a woman decides to do something outside of her home, for example, she wants to become a politician, men especially
Mm-hmm.
abuse, denigrate, try to find things to rubbish her, and women then get alongside, they get on board with trying to embarrass the woman.
Yeah.
Now, what are your thoughts regarding that? How do you think that we can rise above it, to stop it, to nip it in the bud? Because it is getting worse. The abuse is getting worse.
Absolutely. I'm not surprised that the abuse is getting worse, because when you have a situation where there's a shift, like there is a if you I'll just say it, there is a vibrational shift. If you look around and you see like how many women's groups there are, initiatives, projects, and things like that. And we are becoming more outspoken. And when things like that are happening, usually the minority, those who are fearing that their power is going to be taken from them, they dig their heels in. So then so things get ramped up, you know, and we're seeing that with Black Lives Matter, you know, and things like that. So our responsibility is to stop hiding. Our responsibility is to, no matter how uncomfortable it feels, is to say, I see that and it's not okay. And especially our responsibility as women is, it doesn't matter if you do not agree with the values of that other woman, or the direction that they're headed in. She's still a human being, and she has probably a lot more in common with you than she has different to you. She's a human being. So if somebody's being attacked purely on one of their characteristics, here we're talking about gender, but equally it could be their race, you have to call it out, you know. And some people may not agree with it, or they may question what the point is, but the number of petitions that I've seen circulating, not just about women's issues, not just about the Black Lives Matter and race issues, but generally, it tells me that we are in a place where people are becoming less and less willing to keep quiet, and more charged, if you like, to call out nonsense or, you know, inexcusable, unacceptable behavior when they see it. So for the men, yes, you call them out, you write to whoever you need to write to you know, remove their comments or take them out of the arena or the position that enables them to have that voice, you know. And equally for the women, you call them out as well. It's like, why do you think that this is okay? That comments are being made about this person that have absolutely nothing to do about their competence or capability to carry out their role, which is the main reason they're in the public light in the first place. So you have to speak up.
When you say, no, but when you say, I need clarity here. When you say call them out, example, I'm the one who's being attacked. I'm the one who's being put up for vice president or whatever it is, president say.
Yeah.
And people are saying rude things about me, and people are trying to attack me. Who is calling them out? Am I the one doing the calling out, or is it people around who feel that this is wrong? To pull, you know, who is doing it?
I would say both. My personal view is, I would say both. Some people I know will take the view is that, well, you know, this is so, it's the kind of comments or something that you don't dignify with a response. I know some people have that view, but so if people are insulting you, and okay, let me finish that line of thought. So for those who say you don't even dignify with a response, there's a difference between putting all your effort and energy into saying something and, you know, wanting to force the person to maybe retract their statement, as opposed to making a one statement saying, yes, I've heard that this is what's going on, and this and this and this and this is not okay. And that's where I'm going to leave it, because for whatever reason, I'm not going to basically waste my good energy and throw that after this unintelligible or uneducated behavior, which is what it is. If
you staying with this issue, if you look at what's happening in Ghana now, for example, where a woman has been, that's a huge bottle of water. If you look, and you will see that a woman has been put up as the vice, you know, she's going to be standing as vice president, etc. And the people abusing her are not just members of the public. It is actually MPs, a DC, this and that. And the question is, these are supposed to be people who are serving and protecting the people of Ghana. And this is a member of the public who's been plucked up. Yes, she's been a minister before, regardless. But they're the people abusing her. What do you do with that? These are people in government, actually, who are doing the abusing. How do you deal with that?
That one I multiply by 10. For them, it's even more the reason that you write to the head office and you express your disgust, your dissatisfaction, your call for them retracting those statements. You write to to their head office. You write to the president's office. You write to whoever you can, because like you said, these are people who are supposedly having or supposed to have the public interest in mind. They're supposed to be role models. We don't use that word, but once you're in the public light, whether you like it or not, you're supposed to be setting a good example. So I think times 10, if not times 20, they're exactly the people that we should be calling out, because otherwise we accept it. So it's one rule for the people who are in public office, and another rule for just the Joe Blogs and the likes of us, just civilians. No,
I think that the systems are not in place for slander, for example. Systems are not in place to go against public people in public office. So and we are in a situation where if you did try and take these people to court for slander or for whatever it is, nothing is going to happen. They will not be put in prison. They will not be held accountable.
I'm not even talking about slander now.
Or whatever. Abuse.
Oh, sorry. What I meant was, I'm not even talking about taking legal action. I'm talking about if you want to be in the public eye and misuse your position. We are in the world now. We are in the time of social media. This is about reputation, and you feel that your tongue can be so loose to let loose these kind of statements as a reflection or representation of who you are. Things on social media catch like fire now. Like I said, the number of petitions I've seen, people will hit their Twitter, their Instagram, this, that, and the other. We may think that doesn't go far enough, but it doesn't give us an excuse not to do anything. And you never know where those things end up. You never know how many.
My suggestion to you, because you want to go into politics, is these are the things that I personally think that you should start working on how to deal with this before you actually get there. These are the things which you and anyone else who is interested should try and make this unacceptable in society, and to be able to, for man or woman, to be able to pursue whatever it is they want to do in office without these aggressive behavior against them.
Yes and no. I absolutely agree that this is not the way that as a society we should behave, and we should allow for things like that. We should allow people to get away with things like that. And also, that should not be the reason that prevents us from going forward anyway, because you have to be in the system to change the system, or at least close to the system to change the system. So yes, you're right. Something must be done. It's not something that we should allow to continue for however long. Absolutely. However, when you're in the current circumstances, what you need to do is, I guess, mitigate your position. So you just prepare yourself. I'm the kind of person, at least now at this stage in my life, where it's like, yeah, say what you will about me. I may even offer you the things to tell you about me, because, I'm not defined by, words, even circumstances. It's not that kind of, it's not the way that I look at things. That's a personal view. Some people may not share that view. So I have a kind of a double way that I look at that thing. I don't want because I'm thinking realistically how long it would take to reposition something like that, because this is not something, remember, yes, we have laws, but law doesn't solve everything. Law doesn't solve issues that we have with long held traditions or cultural practices and things like that. We only have to look at
It is not a cultural practice to abuse women in public in the way that this woman is being abused now. It's not a cultural practice.
I understand it, but it seems to be a case where, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but until recently, it's like that people are not so vocal about condemning the people that are doing that. That's what I mean in terms of.
Exactly. You are right there. You are right there. People are not. And one of the things I find very frustrating in Ghana, especially, not anywhere else, because, and I always say Ghana because that's my beloved country and I know it well.
Mm-hmm.
If I compare it to where I live now,
mm-hmm.
Ghanaians, the educated ones who really should make points about shocking behavior or say something about someone's evil deed, they are silent. Now, silent or silence make it meaning that you are part of the problem.
Absolutely, you're complicit.
And it's mostly the educated ones. They never speak. They are silent. They see it. They don't say anything. This is happening now. It is not in the papers. It is in the paper about the abuse, but nobody else is saying this is bad. Don't do it. This is unacceptable. This is disgusting. It's us common floor members,
yes,
who are making a lot of noise.
Yes. And even that, I think, is the difference between, I would say, maybe culturally, here, and not even just here. I would say I would actually say the West when I think about those in the US. But the fact that maybe because our experience here is that we know we're Black. Do you understand? It's like we're here, and we are, at least here, the minority. There is definitely that difference where you don't have that difference, obviously, on the continent or in Ghana. So because of the journey we have had to go on in terms of acquiring certain rights, I think that has put us in a place to exercise our muscle to speak up. And I don't think we've had that similar experience on the continent, so here we tend to be, from what I've seen, we tend to be more outspoken. Not to say that nobody at home, Ghana, or the rest, not to say that they don't speak out.
The continental of Ghana.
Ghana. The continent of Africa within Ghana. So the motherland, Africa, but of which Ghana is part. So I think that's why maybe it's easier. We're more practiced at speaking up here because of the experience that we've had here. And that's why it's very important that we take our voice and do that there and encourage our fellow citizens, especially the women, to show them that it's actually okay. It may not be comfortable, but hey, you have to start somewhere,
Yeah, it's very disheartening, but I applaud you for it has not deterred you in any way, which is excellent. Yeah, my other question is, why do we need to empower women? Why do you need to empower women? I mean, women are being empowered all over the place, and it's a good thing. But what is your take on that? Why?
My personal take is that empowerment looks different for different people. It's based on, first, my own personal journey of, I'll say, going on a journey of empowerment for myself. People can look at someone, and I'll just use myself. They can look, or at least these are the things that I would think. I would think that people could look at me in the past and think, oh, okay, so she's a lawyer, she's married, she has children, she's settled. she looks like she's doing well. She's educated, all these kind of things, but not knowing that my reality is that I have a lot of, or at least had a lot of self esteem issues, low self worth,
Mhm.
struggling, feeling isolated, you know,
Mhm.
feeling like not being able to cope. Why? Because in a situation where I felt like I had to do everything, my personal situation, my ex-husband had health issues. So it meant that I had to pick up more, if you like, of what would otherwise have been responsibilities for both of us. And so with two young children, working full time, juggling all these balls, and at that time being quite isolated from my family. And you would think with all the education, someone could look at me and say, well, why doesn't she just ask for help? But I was not at that place. There's a place where can have certain conditioning that tells us, oh no, but I'm supposed to be successful. My mother managed to raise, three of us, three girls, single-handedly. I must be able to do this. I have a husband, all these kind of messaging that on the one hand tells you that you need to be strong when the last thing you feel is strong. So it's like going on that journey of from the mindset perspective to find out where that comes from. And for me, we the life we're living now is, for me, it's like we are living in sanity, but it's normalized. Like it's completely normal for it's completely normal for us to, go through school, get a good job, settle down, work really hard, spend a lot of time at your job, maybe earn good money, but spend so much time there that you don't actually have the time to spend with the family that we've actually built, and doing everything at 200 miles an hour. One of you, if not both of you, plus children, all on devices, um, availing ourselves of services out there like, oh, you don't have to cook, just order in, or we'll bring the ingredients to you, and that will save you time, to do these things. Meanwhile, we're losing the ability to do these basic things. I could go on and on and on, but like the life we're living is quite unnatural, but it's dressed up to be, oh, it's sophisticated, it's advanced, and from the women empowerment perspective, I think we've got to a place where, especially with this concept of independence and everything, that we've made a rod for our own back, because whenever it was that we decided that yes, we want to also be able to have a career, a vocation, do something outside the home, I guess we didn't realize at that time that we would never ever, for the most of us, for the majority, we were never ever going to be able to leave the home behind. Like you still have all your duties in the home as a mother, because that is our role, primarily our children.
Mhm.
But in addition, so first you complete your first day job in the home,
Mhm.
and then you
Mhm.
go out and you do your other day job.
Mhm.
And even when there's two of you out there doing the day job, when you get back, you still need to do with that one,
Mhm. Mhm.
with your partner, if you're lucky, assisting you with your work. That's completely,
Well, some
that's
partners don't even assist. They get quite cross when they come in. You're cooking, the food is late, he's hungry, he's waiting, he's sitting there. That's a whole other story that we could talk about. But in terms of, so basically, you've told us your view on empowerment to
half
help
side.
people who are in a dark place that they think they can't come out of. And
So
then, yeah, I mean, did you want to add something more? It's your it's
yes,
your your
yes.
your thing. So.
So that was almost like the backdrop to my journey, realizing that actually we're just disconnected from uh the power that we have as women, as mothers. I think it's a very, I mean, of course I'm a woman, you could say I'm going to say that, but it's a very it's a special it's a special character that we have. whether or not you have children, that ability um, to nurture, to support, to encourage, to uplift, to build, to multiply, do all these things, and yet somehow we're seen as the weaker or the fairer sex. So anyway, so this was my journey coming to myself, like, um, getting to the bottom, because feeling
Hmm.
depleted and everything, and realizing that, oh, there's more to my life. It's
Now, how
fun.
did that? No, but how did that realization come? Because people, I know women,
Hmm.
I've known women who are 60, 70, and all their lives to a certain point, and I know some of them very personally who they were joyful, happy people. They get married, they have children, and they slowly get into this decline and stay there for the rest of their lives, so
Hmm.
that they never, they feel to themselves that they haven't amounted to anything, even
Hmm.
when they have. But they don't realize that they because their dream was not necessarily to be a mother and a wife.
Hmm.
They wanted more than that, but they never got that. So I need
Absolutely.
to know at which point
Hmm.
you got the light that, oh my God, I can climb out, or whatever. What happened to you?
So I got to my lowest point, which was when I describe it as being like a hamster in a wheel that I literally couldn't get off. I'd get
Yeah.
up, prepare the children, prepare. I think it was like juice for my husband to help with his help. Take the children to school, go to work, come pick one from nursery from school, come home, sort them out, sort the husband out, put the children to bed, more often than not fall asleep whilst putting the children to bed because I was so exhausted. And I was at that point, I was doing absolutely nothing for myself. Like I've told you, songwriter. I used to play the violin. I used to play in orchestras. Like I used to go and perform. I used to sing. I used to dance. None of that stuff I was doing. So I was in this situation where I just felt like, I literally said to myself, there has to be more to my life. Because as much as I have this, I'm happily married, I've got these beautiful children, I've got a good job, I feel, and I didn't know this at the time, but I was depressed. I found out later that in that time I was depressed, right? So I didn't know I was depressed. So I started asking myself, I was like, there's got to be more to my life. Then divine intervention, I saw an advert for a 1 day workshop that was entitled Unleash Your Genius and Master Your Life. And part of it was all about how you discover your purpose. So that was the point where I'm like, okay, so when this, it was a 1 day. And for me, for my personal experience, the message that I took away that I will never forget from that 1 day was that you are not broken. There's nothing that you have to fix about you to create what you love. And for me, it's because I felt useless. I felt worthless. How can I be so educated, have a good profession, all these things, and yet I'm miserable? I'm in debt. I'm not, all these things. So for there, it was like, oh, okay, my purpose. So what is my purpose? And then I uncovered the fact that, oh yes, I haven't been singing for about 3 or 4 years or something, or whatever it was, like a long time, which then I was connected with, because it's actually, like, I'll say now that when I sing, I don't sing for other people. I sing because it's what reminds me that I'm who I am. It's like who I am fundamentally. And so it's like, oh, I wasn't doing that. And lo and behold, so I started on this training and stuff. And it wasn't long after that I started writing. Like I wrote my first song or whatever it was. So it was reconnecting to my purpose. And for the women that you're talking about, when you say that, they get to the end of their life and they feel that they haven't amounted to anything, that's a whole
Hmm.
nother conversation for another time. But simply put, it's because we get stuck in this place where we are told, and then we reinforce that we are just a wife and just a mother, when, as you and I discussed last week, with just being a mother, we play about 10 different roles, including leadership roles. But we find ourselves in this space where it's like, oh, it's only this. It's almost like, oh, it's a nice to have, but it's not, it's not necessary. We're just completely disconnected from the divine calling we have as mothers, as women. And it is divine when you think how many women to this day still lose their lives in childbirth. Like, it's magical, but we get disconnected from how wonderful we are. um so that aside, when you don't discover or believe that you have greater potential than your life that you are living, you will it's like being a caged bird. You will feel confined, you feel restrained. That's how I felt until I managed to get a second one. Oh, okay, so there's more to me, there's more to my life. And it just depends on who is in your circle. If there are people that reinforce that, oh, well, you should be lucky, you're happy, you're married, you've got children, that's something to write home about. And I like, now it's funny, I sit here now, and before I used to think that, if I saw somebody describing themselves, a woman describing herself, and she would say, um there used to be a thing about whether or not women would say that they are mothers, say like on a business page or something like that, you know.
Mhm.
And some people would think, oh, it's not professional, or it's not. But now, like the place that I'm in now, it's like being a mother, that's my superpower. That's the thing that reminds me that I can do so much more. We have so much in us, even if we are mothers who are the ones who we have children, and that is what we've made. Because I believe in career mothers. I have friends that they have 6 7 children. I say, wow, that's amazing. I'd love to be in that space, but it's not for everyone. So how that led me to the journey that I'm taking now is like, it led me to get into coaching, to helping other women to reconnect with their purpose, whatever that may be. It's literally just finding out what that is, because we don't serve like the world. We don't serve other people unless ultimately we feel that we're valuable, that we're adding something of value. But we need to know what that is, and we need to know what our unique thing is. You know. So, and then I got to the place.
Well,
Go ahead.
no, no, no. I thought you finished. So carry on.
You regret inviting me onto the thing. Okay, let me just do this bit. So, um, empowering women, and then before this, about
Mhm.
2 years ago, I literally, I mean, it sounds as cliche as it sounds, but I literally had a dream. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I had a dream where basically, I saw my mother, her mother, and we were just I think, going to celebrate, but also kind of, how do I say this? It was like kind of wash away burdens, because this behavior of selflessness, it gets carried down for most of us women. You see your mother working so hard, and she gives everything to everyone, and she leaves nothing for herself, and you see that travel down. So yeah, I'd seen my grandmother, and we were going to wash away our burdens. And I turned around to collect them, so that we go, and like we were going to, I think, go into the sea or something. And there was this long line of what to me is my foremothers, like all the women above, all my ancestors, all the women. Like I couldn't see the end of the queue, and they were saying that they want to come as well, you know. So for
They
me,
wanted to come with you
they wanted
to.
to come and wash in the sea and release and wash away these burdens of this, this selflessness and worth or unworthiness, if you like.
Okay.
So for me, I didn't know it then. I'd always had this feeling that, oh, I will eventually go home. But where it led me to, and then on my own journey about, empowering myself, it's like I need to go to the original mother. I need to go home to Mother Ghana and do the same with my own sisters, like with my own people. It's like taking back what I have learned. Now I'm only one woman, but it doesn't matter because it's my journey. And I believe that whatever I pass on is going to, even if I help one person by going home, that's what I felt called to do. So that became okay. So now this is why I'm going home. I'm going to help my fellow women to make these discoveries from themselves. Why? Because as much as some of us, we're doing really well with, we're in high places and everything, you still have developed and developing nations alike where women, we're crying out for gender equality and equity. So something still is really wrong when the majority are still claiming that we are oppressed. So that's why we need, for me, that's why empowering the women, the mothers, is still essential, because we're the majority of the population. And so the country cannot the land, it cannot thrive if the original mothers, like the motherland, the original mothers, if we're not doing well, then the rest, I mean, you only have to look at what the world looks like now. It's chaos.
And it's chaos because it's the men who are controlling it.
Yeah. And they didn't get there by themselves. So it's like, yes, so they are controlling it. And me personally, if you really want me to go there, if I accept that, especially as African women, and we say, and we know that Africa being the seat of civilization, so African women, we are the mothers of civilization. So actually, our country, the world, is being run by our children. Of course, it's not going to go well. So it's time for mothers to step back up. Like, we need to get our house in order. That's where I come from. And I know it's not every woman that's going to want to step up into politics. Of course not. No. But we need to have our mind to that. We need to say, okay, well, she's going to do it. No, I don't really want that, but I'm going to support her. Why? Because what she's doing is going to help me, and it's going to help the rest of other people that look like me.
How are you going to, what experiences do we have that strip us of our power, and why we need to take power, as you're saying, to be able to educate our children? First of all, we have to identify where the pain is, and then we need to cure the pain. So for you, how do you see it? What examples have you got to say, this and this is what's happening? I am going to Ghana to sort this and this out, because this is the step which is going to put the women back into play. Now, before we go further, people need to know, though, that there was a time when women were respected in Ghana and in Africa. Basically, we had our own systems. Women were matriarchs. They still are in a certain way, but it's just that other things came into play, which then brought men into control and started to strip women of their powers and things. And it seems like it has been a slow process. I always say, though, that whenever I look at Ghana as a whole, there are very educated women out there, women in leadership, women doctors, professionals, etc., etc. However, when it comes to certain points in our lives, women are then held down. So my question to you is, what examples have you got, and how do we then climb out of those examples to make our situations better?
I would imagine that you were talking about whether it was before, or after we came. After we gained so-called independence.
Independence, the independence that stripped women of their independence. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, that's the funny thing, because we, our late great, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah led us to independence, but with the support of the women. had it not been, you know, the women that were strong behind him, I don't think he would have accomplished what he did.
Oh
Um,
yes. Oh yes.
so coming back to what you were saying, and for me, this is really relevant to our role really as mothers, because, you know, as mothers, we just want to encourage our children and support them. And that also translates into how we support our partners, you know. So we get to this place, it's like because we've got two not extremes, but if you like, two polar opposites. You have those who are educated, and perhaps those who are not educated. So even let's talk about women who are educated. Of course, we still have the, if you like, the knowledge, the understanding. We're still responsible for looking after our families, and some of us will only go so far, because having enough time to look after our families, that's number one. But also there's this thing where for some of us, we do not want to or fear this thing about outshining our men. You know, it's like it's not cool to look as if you're putting yourself in a higher status than your partner, your spouse, your husband, you know. And if you're single, it's almost seen as if, though, well, of course you're going to do that because you don't have the partner or somebody else there. But it's funny how other women look at those women who, for instance, maybe they don't have other responsibilities, as, you know, selfish, or, you know, somebody who doesn't really consider other people's feelings. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So we've got the situation where the men, as much as, and there are, believe me, we both know there are men who are very supportive of their partners or even other women in their family. There are those who, they respect you, but not if you step out of place, not if you say, right now I want to start my own business. It's like, well, why don't you just get a job? You know, this is the setup. If you start a business, well, who's going to look after the family? It's like you said it last week in terms of talking about the glass ceiling. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can go forward, but don't overstep the boundary. You know, you can only go so far, because on the other spectrum, we still hold these ideals that actually, and not all of us, because this is another conversation that's being had, that, you know, it's like marriage is related to, or somehow a reflection of, a woman's worth. You know, so you hear conversations like, oh, I don't know, if you're having a you know, quite intellectual debate, and then one woman doesn't agree with the other woman, and then before you know it, the woman said to her, anyway, enough of this, why don't you go and find yourself a good husband? Like, what's that got to do with anything? You know. But there's still women who feel like, oh no, you're not a real woman if you're not married and you don't have children. So imagine if
Yeah.
we women are thinking like that amongst ourselves, then it's just kind of supporting the views that some of the men have already. So as much as we're trying to progress, and remember, whenever somebody steps out, whenever somebody's going to do something that is like against the grain, they'll get a lot of resistance. It's like, oh, she probably slept her way to get to the position, you know, she's neglected her family, you know, this kind of mentality. And it's still, I'm still surprised to hear some of these things, that even today, even with people that you and I would say are so-called educated, you know, the extent to which we feel that, no, ultimately a woman's place is still in the home. If she chooses to have a career, that's fine, but it doesn't absolve her. It doesn't absolve her of the need and her duties to the home, whether or not there are children in it. So the reason why there's still work to be done there is because we don't see it. We think it's normal. We think it's normal now that actually the men should be in leadership. We were talking before about the political leadership. Oh, that's a dirty game. That's really nasty. Leave that one to the men. Well, fine. Leave it to the men, but then you can't complain that they're doing a bad job. If you think you can do a better job, then we have to be the ones that go there and acknowledge that, no, it's not going to be pretty. because that's the same reason why you said leave it to the men, you know. And on top of that, we have many influences, and religion is one of them. You know, there are, no matter what your religious persuasion, whether you believe or not, you know, there's truth. I always say there's truth in the Bible, but not everything in the Bible is truthful. You know, not everything is real or accurate. And just as they say that, you know, stories, they're usually told from the perspective of the victor, the conqueror. You know, we don't really hear. There are, of course, stories of women in the Bible. Of course, there are. You know, but not as many as the men, which is very strange, considering that all of them came from a woman. Do you understand? So
Yeah.
you just look at the influences that kind of sideline us, marginalize us. And if we
Mm-hmm.
don't challenge them, which is what I was saying before, that we're just passive, if we don't challenge them, then that becomes the accepted way of being. And then we forget that, well, somehow we forget, and we probably do not want to accept that whatever the circumstances we are living, in some shape or form, we have enabled them. We've enabled them to continue. It's not our fault. It's not our fault, no. But it's our responsibility, if we're not happy, to do anything about if we're not happy with it, then to do something about it.
So we basically enable the men to treat
Yeah.
us badly, to
Yeah.
hold us back, basically.
Yes, absolutely. And we wouldn't even imagine where it could start from. It could be something as simple as in just the thinking. So I came from the previous part of a conversation we were having before, where we're talking about the relationship between a mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law, and sometimes how that can be fraught with tension, and really how sometimes it's the mother-in-law, it's the way that she can treat the daughter-in-law that that either makes a certain behavior, you know, accepted or not, you know. But basically the way that we treat other women will teach our men, our boys particularly, that it's okay. Imagine if we're still talking about us mothers being the original educators, something as simple as you have a girl child, you have a boy child, the girl child is older, the boy child is younger. The girl did something to upset her brother, which was out of order. So the mother said that the boy can hit his sister, right? And you may think, yeah, what the girl did was out of order, and he's a child. He doesn't know any better. He's thinking, well, yes, his mother said he can slap the girl. You'll grow up with that. It's like, yes, it's okay to hit girl. It doesn't matter that you get told, no, you shouldn't put your hands on women or girls. Your mother has sanctioned you hitting somebody that looks like her. It's okay. It's very subtle, but we grow. We know as children we absorb like sponges, you know. And that happens even in our adulthood. The number of times that it's embarrassing, but you know, we're human, so we have arguments. But the number of times, goodness, when we can have like really heated arguments or even physical fights, it's the same thing. It is the same thing. We think that, oh well, this woman, you know, she's, I don't know, she's illiterate, or she's, you know, what's the word? She's abusive, or she's uneducated. All these kinds of things. We actually think that matters. That doesn't matter. All people will see is two women, and what the real disconnection is that people don't realize that whatever woman you see, it doesn't matter where she's from. It's a woman. It's a girl. Not only is she a reflection of you, she's a reflection of your mother. Would you treat your mother like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll
But we
tell you,
don't.
as you were speaking, I had many examples I could give. One day, years ago, somebody came to my door and he was selling a Hoover, you know, what is it called? A Hoover thing. And
Vacuum.
it was a state of the art one, you know, and he'd come to my door and he said, So he talked about it and everything, and then he said, but if you want to buy it, I need to see your husband to be able to so that we can talk the finances. And I said, oh, I don't want to buy it. So he said, why? I mean, after all that I've shown you. And I said, I don't want to buy it because I'm the one who pays for things in this house. And if you need to speak to a man before you can get it, there is a man, but he doesn't pay for it. I'm going to pay it. So I don't want it. He talked and talked, but I was livid because, and then there are other examples of all of that. And then the other thing you said, I also have an example could be that a girl child is in a house, in a home where she is told that you can do anything you want, and she's educated, and then she marries a man, and he believes that a woman's place is really in the home, and whatever she works outside is actually pin money, and so there's nothing she does that is he is in control kind of thing. So if she has to go to a meeting outside of the office, he says, no, but you can't go. Why? How many? Is it? Who are you going to be talking to? Is it men? Is it, so here you are, a woman who you are outside of the house and you have work to do, but your husband in the house is concerned about the men that you're going to be in. If that's the case, then don't go to work. Hey, all of these things is the state of the mind, because at the same time, he's happy to say, oh, my wife is an accountant. Oh, my wife, but an accountant with control, because you can't be an accountant. So he's quite happy for you to leave your home, go to the office. But you can't go to the office and then be having meetings with men and talking to men. That then ruins the whole thing. He has no control about that, and he can't stand it. There are men like that. Or you and the man can go. Sorry?
Inferiority, insecurity.
Yeah. You and the man can go to work. You are both two people, professional, you're working. You come home, and then you both come home at the same time. And then he sits down, and then you enter the kitchen. You have to do this, you have to do that. There comes a point in most women do it quietly because we are conditioned in that way. Women are conditioned to be good, and women are conditioned to stay with the program. Women are conditioned, blah, 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 blah. So when you are thinking, the few women who then think, this is unacceptable, I can't stand this anymore, I'm tired, or this or that, it makes the other ones think, oh, shut up, you are lucky, you've got a husband, you've got nice kids, you've got a job, and yet every day you are complaining. What is wrong with you? Yeah? And so there's that. And then, so it's just endless. Basically, women are besieged. And it's not all women. It could be just the ones who are creative, the ones who have dreams. I mean, I have to say, in all honesty, that there are times when I do things now that I know very well that it would have been problematic for me if I was in a marriage situation where I wanted to do certain things. I couldn't have done them, because that is my experience, though. I mean, I'm sure that I know people who freely work, have partners who share the home domestic issues, and they freely do things with no problem. But then there are people like me who, when I was in that situation, it was just hell on earth. It was absolute hell on earth. And the things that they think you can get up to, you are not even thinking that. Maybe it's a work, a hobby, a this, a that, something for the children. And yet you are so hemmed in that the only next step is to just break all the shackles so that you have peace.
I so understand that. I really understand that. And that definitely was my reality, especially when I got to this place where I told you, where I was looking for purpose. And so I started learning, I started going on these training courses, and that caused no end of tension, you know, because it's like, but why are you, why are you going to these things? They're not of any value. Anyway, you're just going to learn from the white man, you know, all this, all this stuff. Um, and quite frankly, you know, human nature anyway, we don't like change, or it's really difficult for us to feel, you know, to deal with change. And when you're in a situation like that, and your partner sees you going to do things, they know, they're actually scared to lose you, because they know you're changing. But meanwhile, they're static, you know. So that's one sure way that relationships will be really challenging, when only one of you is interested in growth, like, you know, evolving your mind. But yeah, we enable, we reaffirm that, and we don't even know we do it. It could be like, I think of situations like that. So if I wanted to go and do something, I wanted to go on a course, before I even have the discussion about, okay, so now the next one is going to be here, then, and everything. I've already made sure that the house is spotless, that the childcare is sorted for that day and everything before I even have the conversation. And I'm educated. Do you understand? It's like the mindset, the beliefs we have that run so deep. You know, you don't see it when you're doing it. It's like later, I was thinking, my gosh, I used to do that. You know, how many of us are living like that? We don't. We
A
don't.
lot, a lot of women live like that. A
Mm,
lot of women live like that. I mean, and a lot of men say things like, "Oh God, I'll never be married to a woman like this. She's too noisy. She
mm,
talks too much.
yes.
She's, that sort of thing." And how do, how, and yet men can sit there and have serious conversations about one thing or the other, and yet a woman joins in and it's just, oh, go into the kitchen and keep quiet there, that
Mm,
sort of thing. But you see, when we Africans, we
mhm,
black people, when we talk about these things and we treat women in this way,
mm,
it's the same where black people go into offices and you are in a meeting
mm.
and you say something and everyone looks at you. The white person says the same thing that you said, and everyone says, "Oh, well done. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Well, Terry, that
Absolutely. Oh
yeah."
my goodness.
So
Absolutely 100.
there are the issues where we need to educate ourselves to
Mm,
be able to survive, we the women, and then we as black women. So you are black, you're a woman, you're just on the floor basically, because there's so many issues against you, and they're
mm,
big issues against you, and yet you have children as well, you have home issues, maybe some of them are being battered at home, or domestic violence issues. And
mm,
then sometimes, because of the mindset, this is why I call it the mindset revolution,
mm.
we are the people who need to start thinking in a certain way. And it's terrible, because it's a huge war that
Mm,
you're fighting as a woman, as a black woman,
mm,
as a mother, etc., etc. You are actually fighting to survive in a world where it's hostile to all of your, and these ideas are okay for certain people. So it's not as if it's not there and you are
mm.
bringing out a new thing and you are
No.
inventing the wheel.
Mm.
You're not reinventing the wheel. The wheel is there, they just don't want you to ride it. And those
Absolutely.
are,
Sorry.
yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying that, that's what it is, that there is a wheel and you're
Hmm.
not allowed to drive the wheel, but everybody else can drive it. If you're white, if you're a white man, a white woman, blah blah
Mm.
blah. But black woman, no.
And there you have it. Like for me, it's actually just part of the human experience. Like this is I genuinely believe that this is just the story. And so everything has a time. Now, people's eyes are opening to, the more widely to the race issue, if you like. The next one will be the gender one. Because even with this talk of the Black Lives Matter, they did a feature on Sandra Bland, and they were saying that when they were talking about her, even there they had, I think, a hashtag say her name, because it's like we could remember all the names of the many Black men that had died at the hands of the police, but not so much of the women, and the same goes of, the same goes of, when women go missing or are killed. Like apparently the rate at which women are being killed is increasing. So again, that tells
What?
me, pardon?
Killed what? In Ghana or
in the I think in the States, and then even here in the UK in I think it was in the first 3 weeks of the lockdown. Apparently, the rates of women being killed, even not just abused but killed, were just going up ridiculously.
Yeah, it did.
So
in the first 3 weeks, 17 women were killed.
Okay, I missed one. I thought it was 16, but okay, 17. And for me, so it's a time, like there's a time for everything, and the time is coming. Well, the time is here, the time is here for us. Like you say, you can say doubly oppressed or doubly blessed, because we have that perspective of what it means to be Black in the world and how we're looked at. And then we have the perspective of what it means to be, the so-called fairer or weaker sex, which is a nonsense, because,
I don't think. Have you not seen the pictures? Have you not seen in Africa, the women are not the weaker sex? That is not true. Every time you see a woman carrying firewood on her head, baby on her back, bag, hello.
Yes.
What is weak about that? Even in my village, you should see the women the way they work. They are the ones who go to the farm. Excuse me.
Right. No, so I agree with you. And even the fact that people don't realize that this childbirth that we go through day in, day out, I don't know what the figures are now. And I did say that, yes, some women, unfortunately, more and more women actually dying from that, because we're so disconnected from, the natural way of living. But that aside, it was just to say that, even the contractions, the labor pains that we go through to have baby is analogous to having 10 of your bones broken at the same time.
Wow.
As someone said to me, what man will be able to go through that pain? Imagine, there's 10 of your bones.
2 of his bones. Have you seen a man have flu before? It is a special one, Every man's flu is special.
But I just wanted to just address quickly what you said about, yes, so the mindset for me, absolutely, mindset is at the heart of everything. And we have to recognize that not everybody is in that place to be able to start addressing their mindset, because you mentioned surviving. Yeah, we all have a basic survival need, like we need food, we need water, there are things that we need basically. And when and I know that there's the I've been forgot it, but the it's escaped me, the scale, I think it is, of needs. I forget the correct terminology, but unless we are meeting, I would say, the majority of those basic needs that hold us in survival mode, there's no space, like there's no headspace to actually address, okay, let me look higher. And I'll say higher, we talk about our higher self, because we're looking outside of that survival need. We're looking at something that's spiritual within us. Like, you don't have space to think, what can I, like, even looking like, what's my purpose? What am I going to do for the world? When you're trying to figure out how you're going to feed maybe your children for that day, Where's the space for you to think, okay, yes, and my purpose is to do this and this in the world, you know? So for those who can, for those of us who can, we're at that place where we can inform ourselves, we can speak to like-minded souls, both men and women, because men empower women too, or they can help us to empower ourselves, to have those conversations and be encouraged and uplifted. We should do that, and then encourage other women to do the same, to get to support them and to look inwards to help that mindset journey. We have our other end of the spectrum, which specifically is what we address with the foundation of our mothers who are struggling too much that they do not have that headspace. They just are barely hanging on to manage survival. So in that space, you need to help people deal with their survival needs, whether it's accommodation, whether it's food, whether it's healthcare that they need at time. They need, like as humans, we need some kind of relief before we can say, okay, now let me think beyond today. Let me maybe think into next week, into next month. What can I plan? What is my, what ambition can I have? Because the more you have anyone, men and women alike, but the more you have people who are only grounded in their survival, they're not going to be able to get themselves, they're not going to be able to think a higher mindset. It's like mindset change. That's a privilege. The only mindset you have in survival mode is survival. That's it. When we're talking about, ambition and looking on high, there we're talking about thriving. It's beyond survival, So those of us that can, we're in this space, we talk about it, we uplift each other, we encourage, we learn, we promote everybody to do their own inner work. And we do what we can to now help those of us who are really suffering with the basic survival needs, not to be their crutch, but to give them some relief so they can then start doing that mindset work as well.
Wow. You said a lot.
I have
you
indeed.
have said a lot. You said a lot. Now, somebody put on support us. We are empowered, but we need support. What can you say to that? This is somebody who is empowered. She works. She's a lawyer, actually, just like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And she has got a family. She's got, all of that. However, even she's saying even she needs support, or even they need support. Educated people who, like yourself, who suddenly find themselves in a situation where, yes, it's that thing of the hamster in the cage.
Exactly.
Basically.
And you know something?
No.
That sorry, I was second guessing what I was going to say.
Thinking, yeah.
Nothing in this world is for me. There's no such thing as coincidence. Only God incidents, or everything is comes at whenever it's supposed to come. And sometimes change, we are much more likely to change when we're going through pain than when we're trying to attain pleasure. So sometimes you have to be put at your lowest before you ask yourself, either you ask for help or you ask yourself what's going on. So us being in the hamster wheel, it's like, that's the time where it's like, oh my God, I need to do something, or I need help, I need to do something. Otherwise, before you get to that stage, you just think, no, it's fine. It's fine. I will manage. I must be strong. I must keep going. And it's like, no, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you get the help you need to come back up. So for the sister there, yes, definitely empowered. And however empowered you are, you still need, as Auntie Candy says, you need your army. You need an entourage. You need to be surrounded by people who.
Yeah, you need a circle, an army.
A circle, army, an entourage, a gathering. You need supporters. Why? Because as human beings, we will always have that part of us which is only seeking to survive. And that is the part of us that keeps us small. That's the part of us that says, no, Don't go for them. Don't go for the boss position or the managerial position. Just go for the assistant one. That will that will ruffle less feathers, and it will give you more time to be in the house for the children. You know, yeah, that's the one that will stop you from putting your hand up, for asking for something, for going for promotion, for it's the one that just wants you to stay like in your one corner and not grow. So the reason you have your circle, your army, your entourage is you need someone to be your mirrors, your reflections. You need people to remind you, hey, you told me that you were going to start this business. What's up with that? What are you doing? What help do you need? You need people to remind you of the you that you really are, not the one that you think that fits in this box that, keeps everybody quite happy. So that's why we need, it's not, and the thing is, it's not weak people. It's not weak people that have circles like that. It's actually strong people that realize that you don't stay strong forever. You ebb and flow. And so when you're coming down the curve, you need your circle to say, hey, you can do this. Remember, you got this.
Wow. It's 10:22. We've been on for an hour and 15 minutes. So we really had a good natter about things, and we've turned things upside down. Do you have a final word before we go off?
My final word is to always my final word is to treat every woman and girl with the same love, respect that you treat your mother.
You are talking to mostly women, because I'm seeing that a lot of women are on here. And so it's more of for women as well. I think
I'm talking to everybody, especially because, like I said, we don't realize that maybe that just that 1, 2, 3 words said in anger about a woman that was really disrespectful, when we can have, no matter what the woman did to you, we don't realize how that ripples out, and how people are looking on and reaffirming that, oh, well, this is how they treat themselves, then man or woman alike, they can treat them like that. We have to be the example. Exactly. So men and women alike, I don't care who they are, whatever woman and girl you come across, you treat them with the same respect, reverence as your mother. If that person is disrespectful, as much as you can, distance yourself rather than insult or bring down the person or abuse the person. Just distance yourself, but you respect that woman and that girl, and when we teach our boys to do the same.
Well, thank you so much, Angela, for all of the things you said. You've given us a lot of things to think about. You've given us a lot of strength as well for all those people, and especially ladies who are on here or who will be seeing this on replay. If you are feeling down, or if you feel that you are being held back, or if you feel that everything is getting on top of you, there are ways to prioritize whatever it is, and then look to yourself and make decisions on how to move further. Sometimes you have to shed. Sometimes you can include. Sometimes you can discuss. Sometimes you can come to an impasse. Sometimes you can look and find a way forward with help from outside. You can seek help. There are people that you can seek help from. There are people you can talk to. Everyone, as I always say, my mantra is, you need an army. You need help. One man can never be an island. That is not how God created us. Whether the universe, God, whoever it is that you think is your higher power, as I always say, we were created by somebody, for somebody, to join other people, etc. And so for you to be able to get on in life, you need help from people. So if you have a trusted friend, and I'm warning you here, when I say friend, people will disappoint you along the way. People will betray you along the way. People will do nasty things to you along the way. But you know what? And I'm telling you this from experience. A lot of betrayals and disappointments that I, Candy Kisseih of Kiki's Chat Show, have faced on this earth has always helped me to move a little bit further. Every disappointment has been a blessing. Every disappointment, trust me on this, has been a blessing. It is not that I did not cry when it happened. It is not that I feel sad when it happened. It is not that I didn't feel the hurt when it happened. However, it is all good. Goodness always comes out of every little thing that you see or you feel that teaches you something. There are moments in my life when I say, but what am I supposed to learn from this? What is the lesson I'm supposed to pick up from this horrible time? It came. It didn't come then, but it did come. So, my people, we've had a chat with Angela. Angela had a dream of becoming the president of Ghana. She's still working towards it, and she's telling you she hasn't got there yet. But she has come here and she's told us all her thoughts, how she's doing. She's got this village, she's got land now, she's got people working, tilling the land, creating food for the people. She is slowly working her way up. She did not do it with 10 million pounds or dollars. She started very small and she's still working on it. People, I advise you that if you start anything, you start small with a vision. It will come to pass. And when it's happening, remember me. Little old me sitting here talking to you and telling you that I know that you will make it. Each and every one of you. Thank you very much, Angela. I've really enjoyed this chat. And I think that we should do this annually. We should do updates on how you're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the last thing I would say that I didn't say is that if anyone would like to support the vision of Power to Mothers Foundation Africa, they can go to Patreon, patreon.com/PTOMFA. That's patreon.com/PTOMFA, as in Power to Our Mothers Foundation Africa. So we will, I don't know when, but we will build the first Power to Our Mothers Foundation Africa village, but not the last. But like Auntie Candy said, one step at a time.
Power to Our Mothers Foundation Africa. I think you should put that on my on my Facebook page, so that people can actually see the address and click on it or whatever it is they want to do.
Sure, I'll do that when we're done.
Okay. Yeah, when we're done. So thank you all, and thank you listeners so much. I mean, I'm saying bye-bye to you. I've been on for so long. I need to go. I've got work to do. But thank you.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And thank you so much for coming. And we will do this again. We have to do, every little time. Anytime you feel that you want to share something or you want to talk about, because what you need is a following. And slowly from here, people are becoming to know you a little bit more. So as you go along, if you keep coming and telling us a little bit more from time to time, people will become aware. You need women to join your party. You need an army. I'm one of them. Remember me.
Oh, I'll never forget you. Never. So thank you to everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks to all the viewers, listeners, live and on replay. And thanks again for having me on the platform.
It's a pleasure. Good night, people.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Be well. Bye-bye.